Hey friends, so it seems like there are more superhero movies coming out now. I feel like we were kind of on an unofficial or official hiatus from superhero movies for a while, but now we're getting more of them. And every time there's a new series of superhero movie or action movie, there is some discussion on videos and articles and just media about how these lead actors and actresses got their physiques, how they trained, how they ate. And even outside of acting and celebrities, we do see some rich people, famous people, and even some very busy people who are looking fit and muscular. And we know they have money, but how do they find the time, especially when it isn't part of their job? And I feel like there's a common response to this. Not everyone thinks this, and I find it interesting, but I feel like there's a common response where I could do that too if I had money and I had the time. And my thought on that is money definitely is an advantage for a lot of things, including for fitness. I really wouldn't want to argue otherwise, especially for things like gym equipment, and more notably perhaps, what we can afford to eat. Getting access to high quality foods can really help, and sometimes this really isn't that cheap. And that's not even getting into things like QRT and other medical things. Kind of out of my world. But the good news is that even if there is a money barrier for fitness for some people in some places, it really is getting vastly a lot smaller and will probably continue to get smaller over time. So we know with calisthenics that we can get healthy, fit, and strong with just our body. It doesn't mean that I dislike the gym. It doesn't mean there aren't advantages to sometimes very expensive machines, but we're able to get healthy, fit, and strong with just our body. Plus eating well and sleeping well. It's just good to know that we have that attached to us. A bigger factor, however, might be time. If we don't have the time to work out, it can be pretty hard to make any type of progress. And I want to respond to this because I know there's usually an expression of doubt from people who work very hard. And I understand that as well, where no, you do have time to work out, you do have energy to work out, you just don't want to. And I understand that. Sometimes I do have to push past my inner pig dog where I don't want to work. And I'm like, I don't really feel in the mood that day, or I didn't sleep very well. But there are some seasons in our lives where we do have dramatically less time, usually energy too, for working out, or really any of our other side pursuits and hobbies that aren't directly connected to usually staying alive or keeping our job or trying to move forward in life. Just real quick, I feel like the disconnect isn't always that we don't have 10 free minutes at some point in our day, because most of us do. It's really that we have scheduled blocks of time during our most energized hours. So like, let's say you work 10 hours in a row, and wherever you're working, it's not socially acceptable to just break away and do some push-ups if you're even comfortable with that. Even wall push-ups or squats, it might just be hard to break away. And afterwards, you may go home to some roommates. You may have to cook dinner, you may have to hang out with your partner or your friends. Some of that is optional, but what I discovered is not literally missing the time, but there are so many scheduled blocks that it's hard to fit in a time for working out where you can actually focus on that. Most ironically for me perhaps, and for a lot of other fitness content creators, is making fitness content. So making the videos trying to help other people get healthy, fit, and strong, or entertaining people on fitness sometimes gets in the way of our actual fitness and health. You can ask other fitness content creators because it seems to be a recurring theme. Usually one we can overcome eventually, but a recurring theme nevertheless. So I want to share some things from experience and from hearing other people's experiences that can help you make the most of your time and try to stay relatively fit and healthy during a busy season in your life, because we do want to stay fit. There's lots of long-term benefits to exercise, and if we ignore it for a long while, it could be sad times. So I want to cover 3 main points and tips, but before then, I want to bring something up, and that is a lot of these videos revolve around integrating movement and exercise into your life, and I think this is great. So they might mention that if you have no time to go to the gym or block out a workout session, then you could walk perhaps on your way to work if you're able. Or if you are in an environment where you can sneak away and do a quick set of push-ups. I did that in school sometimes. And if you aren't able to do push-ups, you can do incline push-ups or wall push-ups. You can do squats if nobody's looking. Or if somebody's looking, if you're someone who wants to maintain eye contact as you do squats to establish dominance, it's always an option. You can hang with your hands from a bar, do some stretches. Things like that are great, but I tend to think that as we want to develop on our fitness, if and when it becomes a bigger hobby, it's kind of like practicing anything else. If you wanted to practice piano or guitar or learn a language, small micro sessions like that will help. It's better than nothing. But over time, I feel like people, when possible, want to carve out a block where they can focus, and that's a good way for them to actually progress. So if and when you're able to block out 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes specific for exercise, I would encourage you to do so because it can really help. And the first thing I want to bring up is to try short, intense workouts. It's interesting because if we were to search minimum time for working out or best length of time for workouts, we would find from some very reputable health agencies things like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And I would say that yes, once you're in the groove of it, an hour can fly by very quickly in the gym. But for some people who feel low on time, it can be pretty intimidating to think, man, I have to take an hour to go and do this, not including driving there and back if you're going to a gym. And I want to give a little bit of context to this because you can get benefit from exercise in way under an hour, under 45 minutes, and under 30 minutes. I'm not disagreeing with these studies because they're probably based off other metrics like longevity, cardio, other very important things. But fitness and strength, to go down a little bit, is skill specific. So I would argue you could probably get benefit from exercise in a few minutes a day, depending on how narrow you want to go. Let's say you only ever did bicep curls and you did 2 sets to failure. You would be able to grow from that. You don't have to do it every day. You can do it just a couple times a week. And assuming you managed your training and your diet and your sleep well, you could continue to grow just from bicep curls and really what's adding up to like 5-10 minutes of working out per week. Now, should you only do bicep curls? Probably not. You probably want to try to maintain good balance. And there's other important movements. If you were to only choose 1 or 2 or 3, it probably wouldn't be bicep curls. Larger movements would probably be better. So squats, pull-ups, maybe bridges. So we can get benefit with less time if we reduce the number of exercises. And if we're going to do that, we might as well do full compound exercises, large movements. 2 or 3 sets of as many as you safely can. And if and when you are able, you can add on the other accessory exercises. I like isolation exercises like bicep curls a lot more nowadays, but I would put them after you do the compound. So pull-ups, chin-ups first, and then bicep curls when you're able. Push-ups and dips first, and then tricep extensions, depending on your goals, of course, but this is for managing and optimizing time. Now, I want to add a note about intensity because I am a fan of going closer to failure after someone's ready, after they're warmed up, they've been exercising at least a few weeks, and they're medically cleared for exercise, all of that, of regularly going to failure or at least 1 or 2 reps in reserve. I just say do as many as you safely can because most people aren't familiar with true muscular failure, and there may or may not be benefits of actually going that far. And I want to show you a real quick test you can use for something like this because it's not necessarily about using more weight, right? You can theoretically do this and grow muscle and get stronger with many different weights, but you want to choose something around medium weight, something you can comfortably handle, you can do at least 5 repetitions of, but not so light that it feels too easy. Your first few reps might be slow and controlled because it's a weight that you can comfortably, safely, and competently handle. But your last few reps, I've noticed for people who are getting into fitness, they tend to stop too soon. They think, I'm feeling a slight burn, I'm just gonna end the set there. And I'm not saying there's benefits to that. There's benefits to volume and you're still getting mechanical tension, you still will get stronger and more muscular. But there are benefits of going nearer to failure, and you can tell this when your last few reps are frankly ugly. They don't have to be unsafe, but they are ugly. Your face distorts, you go, whew. It might get a little bit harder to breathe smoothly. The weight will feel like it's moving slower, and it is moving slower. And overall, it just feels like much more of a struggle. And for technical failures is when you're unable to do another rep or another clean rep, depending on how you want to look at it. If time is an issue, consider doing 2 or 3 hard, intense working sets on compound exercises like that each. So like 2 or 3 sets per exercise. And I would prefer you do that over 5, 7, 10 sets of much lower intensity. As you increase total sets, your intensity is probably going to have to go down. So optimize your sets. And the second thing that you can do to optimize your time for working out is to time your rest periods. You can use an app on your phone, a stopwatch, or you could just say that you're gonna inhale and exhale 30 times or take 50 steps back and forth. Pace the room as long as you're consistent. For the intense compound workouts I was talking about earlier, I recommend resting at least 2 to 3 minutes in between sets. 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes more, is often given as a ballpark rest period. And you're going to hear different recommendations for ideal rest period, but really it just depends on the individual, the exercise they're doing, and really things like how they're feeling that day. I do have a set of dumbbells here, By the way, I moved under this pavilion because it started raining. I hope it's okay. But I was gonna do a segment on isometrics and how it can be an efficient form of training. And you may have seen me use isometrics on the IsoMax, a device I use in some videos. But as I was scripting this video and planning it out, I realized not that many people will reasonably incorporate isometrics. I was gonna go into like time under tension and Sherrington's law of irradiation, things like that. But regardless of isometrics or regular dynamic exercise, I noticed a lot of people on their rest times, they just play around on their phone. I don't mean to make it sound bad. I've done that. Very fit people I know have done that. Business people have done that. You can check messages. Sometimes you're doing important business between sets. Other times you're just checking social media. But either way, it is easy to get lost. So as soon as you finish your set a timer for say 3 minutes. And when that's done, and as soon as it starts beeping, hit pause and start your next set. This can really help keep you efficient. So your workout actually is 15, 20 minutes and you get used to that. And you know you can do it in 15 minutes rather than 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, where honestly like 30, 40 minutes of that is resting. And the last thing that I'll mention for today is something that's commonly ignored. But that might be on me for not properly explaining it, or I feel like sometimes it's misunderstood. But you notice how I've mentioned mostly exercise-related things. But as we know, fitness doesn't exist in a vacuum. Our diet, what we eat, what we drink, will matter towards our fitness and health goals. Our fitness and health in general, even if we have no goals. I guess the goal would just be to maintain, in that case. Our sleep is really important. Both quantity, hours slept, and quality, how well you're sleeping. Our rest times, which isn't always sleep, are also important. Our mood is important. So there are a lot of different sides to our health. And I want to say that if you're watching this video and you feel overwhelmed by the information, or you think, Hampton, that's nice, you might not be upset with me, but you're like, man, I really wish I could follow that, but some of this doesn't apply to me. I've been really stressed. I don't feel motivated to work out. And I'm tired of hearing people say that motivation doesn't matter, only discipline does. I feel like I'm trying to be disciplined, but I can't get into the workout. I really only have like 3 hours a day, and I don't have the energy to put 20, 30 minutes into that. If that's what you are feeling, I did an entire video on this a while ago. But in my experience, if that's how you're feeling, if you're not in the zone to apply any of these things because you're too overwhelmed and exhausted, my experience with that is if and when you are able to build a foundation for long-term change, first, take a few days to get better rest, try to eat better, and try to reduce the amount of stress that you have. I have been down this cycle before where it feels like I have no time for anything. Sometimes I really don't have time for the things that are really important to me. And I'm stressed and I'm feeling burnout. I understand that it's a luxury to be able to take a break from that sometimes. And a lot of people, probably most of us, will face some time in our lives where we're unable to take a break from that really. But when I'm trying to focus on many things at once, I'm trying to sleep better, I'm trying to be less stressed, and I'm trying to exercise enough, but I'm failing at all of these things, I really try to take a few days just to focus on the foundation, which is trying to get better rest, trying to get better food, and trying to get better exercise eventually. All those things are connected. Better sleep will help you exercise more. Regularly exercising and regularly not being too stressed can help you stay away from junk food if that's what you want. When we're more stressed and when we're exhausted, that's usually when we want to eat whatever. I know some of you are trying to avoid that. Start with what you can, but setting up your day to where instead of going to the gym that day, maybe wind down and try to get an earlier night, get some sleep. That will help your mood and that will help what you're eating, and all of that may help you apply these changes to your fitness routine. That's all I have for now. Looks like it's still raining. Thank you so much for watching. If you want a fitness routine that fits into your time, the Hybrid Fitness Routine is a free fitness routine on our website. It has many different exercises that you can start from many different fitness levels, so we do our best to meet you where you are. There's a book version of that if you like books, and there's a fitness app in beta if you prefer apps, and currently free support from certified personal trainers on this website. There are many different routines that can work, but if you want that, it's there for you. Have a wonderful, beautiful day.